And away from that, the State Department of Housing has partnered with Huduma Kenya to accelerate Kenyans' registration to the voluntary contribution scheme to the affordable housing scheme dubbed Boma Yangu, which has currently attracted subscription from more than 238,000 applicants. But just what is the Boma Yangu initiative and what has triggered this shift to voluntary contribution? Murimi Mwangi interrogates on this week's episode of Behind the Headlines.
Policy and administrative reforms which are targeted at lowering the cost of construction and improving accessibility of affordable mortgages will be given first priority.
That promise on eve of President Uhuru Kenyatta's swearing-in ceremony on the 28th of November 2017 must have certainly been music to the ears of Kenyans. Then reeling from the acrimonious and economically devastating 2017 polls. Perhaps until this bombshell over a year later, that employers and employees would be required to make mandatory contributions of 1.5% of each worker's salary to finance the president's ambitious housing project.
Where does the lady normally sit?
A matter that ended in court as the Federation of Kenyan Employers obtained orders barring the government from enforcing the mandatory deductions, pending determination of the case challenging the scheme and which is still pending in court. But with 17 of the president's 60-month timeline for the housing project already gone by, the Housing Department has introduced a voluntary contribution option pending settlement of the court case. Under this scheme, volunteers are required to register on the bomayangu.go.ke portal.
Once you have finished your registration process, you can start you elect and you tell us where do you want your house, all right? Where will you want to get your house? But while at it, we give you an opportunity to start saving towards your home.
To register, one is required to create an account and provide these biological details. Upon registration, the applicant gets a unique identification number, which he or she will use for the monthly contribution to the fund. For statutory contribution, both the employer and employee have to make minimum monthly contributions capped at 2,500 shillings. The other option is voluntary contribution, where those interested can deposit a minimum of 200 shillings a month. Couples have the option of making contribution for a single or two separate houses. This money too will not be subject to tax at any time of withdrawal. Hinga says eligibility on allocation of the houses will depend on, among other factors, when one was registered, family status and demand across the housing categories. Construction of 240 units under the first phase has already begun across 11 counties, including Nairobi and Machakos. Such as these units recently launched by President Kenyatta at Ngara, targeting those interested in 1, 2 and 3 bedroom houses.
The process of allocation does not mean that you play a game and then you open a paper and then it says, adakadabra, you go to Embu. No. That is not the case. If you're not successful today in Park Road due to the demand-supply issues, there's Starehe which is coming up. We're breaking ground in Starehe. And there are Kenyans who are also going to express an interest in Starehe. If you had already elected in the first round, your chances are higher in the second round.
Under a social housing plan, a one-bedroom house will cost 600,000 shillings, where potential buyers will have to pay a minimum of 2,500 shillings per month for 25 years. A two-bedroom house will cost 1 million shillings to be footed at 4,500 per month, while a three-bedroom house will go for 1.4 million, funded by monthly contributions of 6,500 shillings.
Seeing what is happening in Ngara, those beautiful houses in Ngara, almost everybody will go there, including workers. We have no objection. But I know that is temporary. Kenya government must come out with something that compels you to own a house.
Is it affordable housing for the coming generation or for the contributor of the money?
Waliconsult nani? Na hizo nyumba nani aliwaambia tunataka kujengewa nyumba? Wangetuconsult tungewaambia tunataka nini?
A lot of Kenyans are living from hand to mouth, and that any form of saving may not, while they might want to save, they may not have ability to save. So we have also introduced last year what is called affordable housing relief. And affordable housing relief, which is different from a deduction, is it reduces your taxable income, meaning that you have more money to take home as long as you're participating.
But the inclusion of the statutory option to the Boma Yangu project, which is binding to the employers of those that subscribe to the voluntary project, could be the next battlefield between the government and the Federation of Kenyan Employers. Earlier this year, FKE opposed the housing scheme on grounds that employers were yet to recover from the economic shockwaves of the 2017 polls, and therefore deemed the move to obligate them to also contribute as unfair. FKE stood its ground to proceed with the case,
To continue,
even after the giant workers' union COTU withdrew from the suit in a move Secretary General Francis Atwoli said would provide necessary environment for dialogue.
government went ahead and implemented 5% to our minimum wage, of which they had increased last year. We were in the process of negotiating another general wage increase, not only for the minimum, but for everybody, so that it can cushion 1.5, which is going on housing.
The nature of the issue does not facilitate out-of-court settlements because there is no remedy that can be given to any of the parties. It is a proposed imposition of a levy, which is going to impact both employers and workers.
Nevertheless, for a country with a financially stretched workforce and embezzlement of public funds at an alarming rate, the Housing Department certainly is walking a tightrope as it attempts to popularize the voluntary contribution option to the affordable housing scheme.